Hello Acolytes, welcome back to another video. If you don't know where I've been gone for a little bit. I went to Virginia to visit my family, and I'm currently working on editing a super long video. It's at least an hour long, and I thought I would be done with that this weekend, but I'm not, so I decided to do a quick little color palette challenge to sort of tide you guys over and upload something this week so I can work further on that review that I'm trying to get done. It's taking me a really long time, but I'm hoping it'll be fun for you guys and a little bit different than what I normally do. When I don't know what to draw, or when I'm just looking to draw something really quick, I like to do these color palette challenges. Sometimes I go to a random color palette generator online like Coolers. This color palette I actually picked up from Pinterest. I've been on a Pinterest kick recently, and Pinterest has some really nice color palettes on it. So I found this beautiful, beautiful green and orange-ish color palette. I decided I was going to do just this woman with crazy, crazy curly hair. I'm always trying to get better at drawing hair, and I think that this was definitely a challenge that went towards that. I spent so long in this illustration drawing her hair. It's actually one of my favorite things to do. I really enjoy doing line art. So when I get to do a piece that has a lot of intricate line art, a lot of different variations in line thickness, I'm pretty pleased by that, but it did take me way, way longer than I thought it would. I got about halfway through lining the hair, and then I was like, I'm done with this illustration. Bah, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm so mad. And then I finished it and I was like, oh, okay, it looks really good. It looks really good. I guess I'm not mad about it anymore. But yes, this is a very intense way of doing the line art for the hair, where essentially I'm not drawing every strand of hair, but I am putting a lot of detail into it. I believe that if you have a relatively simple illustration, if you put a lot of detail into the line art of one part, it suddenly becomes way more intricate and way more, I don't know, it looks to me like elevated compared to what it could be. So I did put a lot of time and effort into the line art of the hair, but I do think it elevated this piece from just like, oh, it's a beautiful woman, it's a fun little drawing, into something that I actually really think is quite beautiful and I really enjoyed. I also found this sort of flowy looking dress on Pinterest. I actually really liked how thin and not wrinkly, but it provided that same sort of look that I was going for with the line art in the hair, where I could make the clothing look quite intricate just by putting a lot of detail into the wrinkles and forms of the fabric. So that also sort of balances the heavier line art in her hair with heavier line art in her bodice as well, and then her skin and her face is sort of this more blank, not blank, but less intricate, less detailed, less covered. It gives a little bit of room to breathe. If the hair is heavy and the clothes are heavy, if everything is heavy, it becomes quite overwhelming to the eyes. But if there's a gap, a break, it sort of allows you to appreciate each aspect individually. Again, the curly hair was really hard to do. It took me literally forever. I'm not even joking. It probably took me like 2.5 hours at least just to line art her hair. The rest of the illustration was actually quite quick in comparison, but I do think it turned out quite well. I have difficulty, and I imagine a lot of people do as well, sort of tracking and understanding where the forms of the hair are. So I really tried with this piece to make it look like the hair was sort of continuing in loops, because that's the trick with the hair. It's like that curl on the center of her forehead, you can see how it specifically loops down and around, and I did try to maintain that with the rest of her hair instead of sort of losing it and just going randomly around. So if you would like to try, I think you can follow quite a few of the curls from sort of top to bottom of her hair. And of course I also had to give her some little curly strands that go off from the main body of the hair, just to make it look a little bit more realistic and a little bit more untamed. That's definitely one of my favorite parts. I have been doing a lot of painting recently for some other projects, so it was sort of nice to step back and do something a little bit more illustrative. I struggle to sort of balance this illustrative style that I really like with painting, which I also think is quite beautiful, so I do bounce back and forth between a few different styles quite often. And I don't know, it's fun to try out a whole bunch of different styles, but I do know that a lot of artists sort of find one that they just stick with. I don't know. I would describe my style as illustrated semi-realism, right? Like my characters aren't particularly cartoony or anything. And I do prefer sort of the line art process. I don't know. Again, I'm pretty new at painting, so maybe that's why I don't like it as much as the whole line art thing, because I have quite a lot of experience in using line art. That's what I've been doing since I learned how to draw, basically. And I don't know. I'm not sure where I'm going with all that. It's just musings on my art process. But yeah, I really enjoy line art, and I'm never going to stop doing it, I think. But I do also really like painting, and I would like to learn how to do more of it. So essentially, here I am finally done with all of the line art. I can finally get started on the color palettes. And so how I do a color palette challenge is I'll typically grab like 5 or so colors, usually from either a randomly generated website or, you know, a curated palette. And then I will use those 5 colors in the illustration, sometimes with an additional line art color. This one does have a line art color. The line art is black. And then I also, and this might be cheating, this might be controversial, you can think it's cheating if you want, I also think it's fair game to use layer styles. So you'll see when I go to shade her hair that there is way more color variation in that red than I have in my current color palette. So I use a multiply layer on her hair to, first of all, create sort of just general form, and then also to shade. And then for the highlights and stuff like that, I will use a screen layer or an add layer. And maybe that's cheating because it gives me more than sort of 5 colors to work with. I don't think it's cheating. I think it's fair game. So yes, I go in and I shade all of her hair with that multiply layer. And I do the same for her like dress bodice later. This was also quite difficult shading the hair because I was trying to, again, keep track of where all of these curls are and where they're overlapping each other and which ones are over and under, and it becomes quite complicated quite quickly. I love drawing curly hair. I think it's beautiful, and I'm definitely going to keep drawing it. It just definitely does take a lot more effort than drawing straight hair. I might do a series where, I don't know, maybe I'll go through and draw a character with each level of hair, right? There's like, you can have like 1 and then it's 1 through 4 and then A through C, right? So 4C is the tightest and 1A is the loosest. Anyway, I also used that exact same red color on her cheeks and sort of other parts of her skin, her shoulders, her elbows, to bring a little bit of life into the skin because her skin tone is sort of dead. But I do actually like that. It leans a little bit more olive toned. I was, the last video I made, the last Funguary video, I drew a girl with actually a quite similar skin tone. She was the green skinhead girl. I'll link that in the iCard if you're interested in watching it. Yeah, I really like that sort of skin tone, and I think it goes really well with the rest of the colors in the palette. So essentially that is it. This is the final illustration. I want to thank you so much for watching my video. If you liked it, leave a like. If you want to see more from me, you can subscribe. Follow me on all my social medias. I am AfterPlague on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitch, and I am after_plague on Twitter. Thank you again so much for watching, and I hope you survive this post-plague world.